Hola a todos, I'm Dan and welcome back to the Daily Language Learning channel. This is certainly going to be one of my most controversial videos yet, so I hope that you appreciate some of the points that I'm going to make here. Let's see. Because today I want to tell you about 12 common mistakes made by Spanish language learners and how to avoid them. Stay with me to the end because I'm going to reveal who won last month's mug giveaway. The purpose of this channel, among other things, is to make you a better student of the Spanish language, to help you learn how to study Spanish better. I'm also a student of the language. Because of that, I don't attempt to teach you the language on this channel. It's not the reason why this channel exists. My goal and the purpose of this channel is to make you a better student of the Spanish language. YouTube knows a lot about us as users, and they share a lot of that demographic information with channel owners like me so that I can make a better video for you. For instance, YouTube tells me that you're an adult learner. In fact, the majority of the people who watch my channel are between the ages of 25 and 64. Now that leads me to make some basic assumptions. For example, as an adult learner, you probably have limited time to study. Between regular life, work, children, and maybe even grandchildren, you only have a certain amount of time to devote to learning Spanish. And if you're like most adults, odds are that you have limited funds to spend on materials that you need to study a language. So it's important to spend them where they're most needed and on the best material you can find. But amigos, the deck is stacked against us because, as an adult, you're the perfect demographic for the language teaching industry to reach out to with advertising to capture both the limited time and the limited funds that you have. So as a fellow adult learner, I would like to help you by cautioning you about 12 common mistakes made by Spanish language learners. Maybe you've made a few of these mistakes yourself. I want to help you learn how to avoid them. I'm going to start with mistake number 12 and count down to the number one mistake Spanish learners make. But this would be a great time for you to hit the subscribe button right here. Now I know that I and every YouTuber says that phrase to you, but let me take just a moment and explain why I need you to do that in 3 simple words. The YouTube algorithm. When you subscribe, you tell YouTube you like my channel. And when you hit that little bell icon and select all, you're telling YouTube that you want to be notified when I post new videos. And when you select the thumbs up icon, you're telling YouTube that you like this video in particular. YouTube uses that information to predict whether other people would also like this video and suggest this video and other videos that I create to them. This is the way people discover most videos on YouTube. So please help me out and the other YouTube channels that you like by subscribing, clicking on the bell icon, and selecting like. Fortunately, you only need to select the subscribe and bell icon once, but you're going to need to select the thumbs up like icon each time you watch one of my videos. With that said, let's begin looking at the 12 common mistakes made by Spanish language learners and how to avoid them, starting with number 12, stealing materials. The books, MP3 files, and video files and PDFs that others create for us to learn Spanish are often the only source of income for the creators of those products. So if you download, copy, or distribute them without permission, it's just like you're reaching through the internet and taking money right off their own table. Posts like these are an unfortunate reality of Spanish language Facebook groups. If you belong to a Facebook group where someone posts links to MP3s or PDF copies of any Spanish study books, resist the urge to get something for nothing. All of the books listed in these screen grabs are copyrighted material, and downloading them is against the law. More importantly, downloading them and using them is just like taking money out of someone else's wallet, without their permission, of course. Some people believe, incorrectly, that if they're studying something, then it's okay to download copyrighted material under the fair use clause of the copyright law. But that's not true. Downloading material you haven't paid for is not fair use under the educational clause of the copyright laws. In fact, Downloading copyrighted material negatively affects real people, people who write the books, record the MP3s, or create the videos. In fact, publishers are hesitant to publish vulnerable material because of this problem. So when you think you may be sticking it to the man, you're actually sticking it to a real person who probably makes only a tiny percentage of profit from each book. So remember, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's free. If you like a language product, support it by paying for it. Remember that book, PDF, MP3, or video file was someone else's idea, their hard work, and was designed to help you. So don't copy without paying for it. Mistake number 11 is asking the internet at large to teach you Spanish. If you are sincerely interested in learning Spanish, there's this big thing called the internet. You can use it to look up the definition of Spanish words at free sites like DeepL/translator, SpanishDict.com, or even Google Translate if you're desperate enough. But joining a Facebook group of Spanish language students isn't the same as joining a Spanish language course. Joining a group and shouting out, "Teach me Spanish," is not the way to learn, no matter how nice you make the post, or how nicely you ask, or whether or not you have WhatsApp. You're going about it the wrong way by asking other students to teach you, even if you ask nicely. I recommend that you use a method that I like to call the right way, and join a Spanish course or watch one of the many great YouTube language teaching videos that are here right on YouTube. It's the internet after all. And if there was only a website that had a course that could teach you Spanish, imagine how wonderful that would be. So, broadcasting, "Someone teach me Spanish," "Please teach me Spanish," "I have WhatsApp, teach me Spanish," to a random Spanish language interest Facebook group is not the way to learn. There are many, many great language systems available where you could begin your Spanish language learning journey. So find one and start today. If you email me, my address will be at the end of this video. I'll give you some great suggestions. Now on to mistake number 10, which in a way is connected to this one. Expecting to learn Spanish cost-free. Of course, there are some tutors who may be willing to teach you for free, but that's not the norm. In fact, the old saying, "you get what you pay for," applies here. You have to put a price tag on what becoming fluent in Spanish is worth to you. Sure, you can learn a lot of Spanish from the materials here on YouTube and from free lessons available on the internet, and even a little from the apps that you can download onto your phone. I did say a little. But if you really want to become conversationally fluent, you need to find a course, a system, pay for it, and stick to it. If this is important to you, then realize that the small cost associated with these courses will benefit you for the rest of your life. I'm not saying that you have to pay a lot, but there are costs. Moving on to mistake number 9, which is wasting study time. If you spend time, effort, and money to find the perfect study system for you, don't waste the time that you've set aside for studying with small distractions. Facebook notifications, messenger alerts, and incoming email beeps can distract you away from studying and waste your study time. Your time is valuable, and you only have a limited amount of it available to study. So when it is time to study, by staying focused on your studies, you'll be able to decrease the actual time it takes to study. Start off by eliminating distractions. Stay focused. Set goals. Turn off those notifications. Now it's time for number 8, the common error of underpractice, the phenomenon of not practicing enough. When I say it like that, it explains why it's a mistake. Studying requires concentration, thinking, asking questions, repetitions, reading, writing, listening, talking, memorization, etc. Those elements of study take time, so don't just go through the motions. Regardless of what some language advertisements on the internet say, 10 minutes a day is not enough to learn a language. In fact, Spending only 10 minutes a day only looking at your vocabulary will barely maintain your knowledge level. So don't get caught in the trap of under-practice. Schedule a time to study and stick with it. So now we're halfway through our list. Let me show you the 7th common mistake made by Spanish language learners. And that's focusing on grammar too much. This error is so very common among educated adults because we know that grammar is the stuff of languages, the stuff that makes us sound educated, sophisticated, and the intelligent adults that we are. The mistake is to equate a deep knowledge of grammar to fluency. But focusing on grammar too soon is the reason why so many adults fail to learn a language at all. It's the reason why you cannot remember the foreign language you studied in high school or from your university, because their primary means to teach you a language was by focusing heavily on grammar. It's the reason why many language learners freeze up when speaking a language, because they focus on grammar too much. Check out my video on that called The Enemy Within. For new students, grammar is best learned when introduced slowly and only when absolutely needed. It should never be your first focus during your beginner and intermediate stages of learning. Instead, your primary focus during this phase should be on communicating. Check out my video on Breaking Espanol for more information about that. Now, the 6th common error made by Spanish language learners is quitting when it gets hard. Yes, language learning isn't always easy. There'll be times when you may feel very confused, that you're making very little progress, and you'll feel very frustrated. But don't quit. Remember why you began studying Spanish in the first place, and realize that there is not an expiration date on that goal. Learning a second language will require determination because there will be tough moments. So if you feel like you need to quit, decide to take a short break of a few weeks at most and reflect on your reasons for learning Spanish. And then start again after that short break. You'll be glad that you did, but let me encourage you to allow yourself some passive exposure to the language during the break with materials like music in the language, movies, videos, and so forth. Now here's the 5th common mistake made by Spanish language learners, and that is collecting too many resources. Someone once wrote to me and said that if resources made us fluent, she would be an expert. How true is that for all of us? The important thing is to find those few key resources that will help you learn, but make sure that you're using those resources that conform to your learning style. To discover your learning style, check out the link to the online test for your learning type in my description below. But be careful, you can overwhelm yourself and the small amount of time that you have with too many resources. Overwhelming yourself with more resources than you could possibly need will only divide your time and divert your attention from the resources which could help you. Now here's the 4th common mistake made by Spanish language learners. Overpractice. Yes, practicing too much, studying too much is a huge mistake. We've already seen that studying too little is a mistake, but interestingly enough, so is overpractice. Practicing to the point of exhaustion is not the answer. There is a point where your mind's ability to absorb more information actually turns off, and continuing past that point can be discouraging to you. So, more practice is not the answer. Spending too much time studying can actually degrade your ability to learn and cause your language memory, speaking, and listening skills to degrade. So again, set an active study schedule that is reasonable and stick with it. Your passive learning time is always available, but actively limit your study time to something reasonable like an hour or 2 a day for about 5 days in a row, followed by 2 days off. Which leads us to the 3rd common mistake made by Spanish language learners: believing all native Spanish speakers can teach you Spanish. Seems like it should work, but it doesn't, because as you know, not everyone who knows a language is qualified to teach that language. So ask yourself, could you teach a non-English speaker the English language? Could your friends, your family, maybe your neighbor? Not all native English speakers can teach someone who doesn't know English how to understand and speak the language from the ground up. The same is true for native Spanish speakers. Yet, through the power of the internet, there are websites and phone apps that can connect you with a native Spanish speaker today. It's easy to believe that you could teach them English and they could teach you Spanish. But that's an error. Sure, there's a small percentage who may be qualified, but the odds are that you're going to find someone who, although they know that there are different past tenses in the Spanish language, they couldn't explain why you should use one over the other. Although they speak perfectly in the subjunctive, they can't explain or teach it to you. In fact, you may end up adopting some of their grammar, pronunciation, and spelling mistakes. Even the differences between regional uses of words and terms can be confusing. The answer is to find someone who's qualified to teach Spanish, not a random person off the internet. Which leads me to the second common mistake made by Spanish language learners: believing and setting unrealistic goals. Goals that are very attractive, easy to hope for, but impossible to meet. Don't allow yourself to be rushed to set unrealistic goals. You'll be speaking Spanish your entire life. Don't set a goal to become fluent on a timeline that's unrealistic and false. You cannot become fluent in a week, in 30 days, or in 90 days. It's not possible, and it'll only discourage you when you don't reach it. Yes, you can make some great progress in those time frames and even hold a basic conversation in them, but you'll not be fluent. This is a mistake so common that it leads me to the final one, which is the number one common mistake made by Spanish language learners, and that is paying attention to internet marketing. You as an adult language learner are targeted by advertising and marketing. You see it on websites you visit, you see it here on YouTube, and in social media like your Facebook news feeds. They are targeting you. Here's a guy who's completed his 10th level. He's finished Spanish.
Me gusta tu vestido.
Dime más.
Tus manos parecen muy suaves.
Dime más.
Tu pelo es perfecto para la forma de tu cara.
It's a good thing he got that app, huh?
Dime más.
Yeah, it's lucky for him that he found that app. Where else would he be? So paying attention to internet marketing is the number one mistake language learners can make. The internet marketing will tell you that you can learn Spanish with their app in just minutes a day, that thousands of language learners like you have depended upon them for language success, that the State Department uses them, the FBI uses them, everyone uses them. Most of the apps that claim to teach Spanish have dumbified the process to gameplay. YouTube says over 500 hours of video are uploaded to them every minute. Every minute. But not one of those videos is from someone who's become fluent in any language only using a free app they downloaded. Apps have a place in the study life of a student. They can be enjoyable, educational, and diverting, but they are not the substitute for real education and learning. Becoming fluent is not something that can be achieved without effort, but with a realistic goal, a successful learning system, a practical amount of practice, a few reliable resources, a proper amount of focus, you can achieve your goal of becoming conversationally fluent. So I want to thank you for watching and hope you found some value in this video and that you'll subscribe. Now it's time to announce last month's mug giveaway winner. So I want to say congratulations to Michelle for your great suggestion about why our minds seem to go blank when we want to speak Spanish. It motivated me to make the video about xenoglossophobia entitled The Enemy Within. If you haven't seen that video, I want to encourage you to watch it now. If you have any comments, please type them below, and send me your questions to my email address at dailylanguagejournal@gmail.com. Now, here's some suggested videos for you to watch. Join me here next week for another video. Until then, hasta pronto.